Oh, thanks. Thanks for coming out. Bonterra is a Quebec, Canada-based high-grade gold explorer turned developer now. And basically, let's move on from this. Yeah, so we're developing a new high-grade gold deposit. Essentially, Bonterra discovered it. It's located in the Abitibi Greenstone Belt. Obviously, you know, upwards of 60 plus million ounces produced in that belt. And we're working our way in towards essentially the first real resource calculation for this deposit. It started with a small one that was done in 2012, right after the discovery of the deposit. So it starts from a 273,000 ounce, 9.5 gram resource. We've expanded the dimensions now since that time. Just really over the past year and a half to 2 years, we've expanded it a good 10 times. So we do expect to put out the new resource here in last half of this year. Management is comprised a good mix of, you know, geologists, engineers, financial people, all, you know, pertinent to essentially vein type gold deposits, high grade in North America. So location wise, we're on the east end of the Abitibi. So you can see it's about just northeast of Val d'Or, about 170 kilometers, very famous mining district. And our second project is called Larder Lake in the black square to the bottom of the pane there. And that project actually has about 1 million ounces at 5.5 grams on the books. And it's right on the big Cadillac Larder break. So it's a second project. We haven't been able to work it because all the focus has been on the Gladiator project in Quebec. Our claim group is in the yellow, so essentially it straddles the kind of east-west volcanic structures. We're surrounded by, in orange, by Osisko, essentially. And they just put out their new resource was 2.8 million ounces at the Windfall deposit, and that's about 8 kilometers to the north of us. The mag map shown here kind of gives you an idea of the strike direction of the volcanic rocks, kind of a northeasterly direction. The location of our deposit is in the middle of our claim group. We are having some success along strike as well, up to 10 kilometers on each side of the deposit. Just a few words about, you know, where we started from, 273,000 ounces, 9.5 grams. To date, well, by the end of this year, we'll have drilled about 150,000 new meters since that time. And of course, that'll go into the new resource calculation. It's a pretty basic vein style deposit. So you've got steeply dipping veins. On the right side is a cross section, kind of typical. Multiple parallel zones. They kind of average about 2.5 meters in width, and they go, you know, we've drilled them past 1 kilometer in depth so far. In a plan view, they look actually much the same as the section view. Basically, you've got kind of a northeasterly shear direction, and then a Rydell system of veins that are formed as a result of, you know, a dilational zone in that area. So well understood geology and fairly, you know, typical for the Archean greenstone belts like this. This longitudinal section in gold, well, that'll give you an idea of where we started. Is the lighter shading that was a 200 meter long by 200 meter deep zone defined, and that contained that 250,000 ounces. The current shading is what we drilled now. So you get an idea of the volume change here. And then, you know, it's not just one plane either. So we're up to 6 planes, 6 different veins of that, you know, kind of dimension. Into the kind of individual planes now that we've done you know, this 150,000 meters of new drilling, you can see the hot spots. These are grams times meters in a longitudinal view. So basically the reds are the best widths and the best grades, and anything that has a color is roughly above an underground cutoff, you know, grade times width. The bottom, you know, is about 1 kilometer deep, and you've got about 1 kilometer of length at the top there. So that's the most northerly zone. Then you're getting into the next one. It's the footwall zone, the main zone, and south zone. And these are, you know, grade times width contours. So you can see some trends emerging, and that's fairly typical for, you know, this style of deposit. You'll get plunging chutes within a broad plane. Highlights of last year's drilling and the beginning of this year, basically, you know, 2.5 to 10 meter widths of 5 to you know, 50 grams per ton. This graph is shows you really when we started, which was the end of 2016. These are drilled meters, and that's of course when we did, you know, most of our started our raising of capital. We've raised about $65 million in the last year and a half. All of them bought deals, no warrants attached. Peer comparisons, if you're looking, you know, to try to, you know, surmise where we might fit. You know, if we're in, we still stay in that sort of 9.5 gram range. We're in the, you know, top tier of new deposits that are coming on stream now. We also did our metallurgy beginning of this year, and it essentially shows a very clean milling ore. It's up to 77% in gravity alone, and, you know, up to 99% just gravity and flotation. So effectively it means we could just produce a float concentrate, which would be a small part of the recoveries, and wouldn't have to actually introduce cyanide into the circuit. That's an option. But basically you're dealing with pyrite, a little bit of sphalerite in a vein material, quartz carbonate material. So extremely clean milling and good recoveries. And that was with a sample that we think is representative, that ran about 8.5 to 9 grams per ton. More regionally, the deposit is sitting in the middle, and then you can see the red lines kind of on both sides up to 10 kilometers away, and we're drilling on both sides. So there's 5 drills turning in the middle on the deposit currently, and then 1 drill out on each extent. Going forward, you can look forward to our new resource. There may be some other land type consolidations to happen as well, and obviously continuation with the drilling, and hopefully some exploration success well outside of the deposit itself. Our second project is Larder. As I mentioned at the beginning, we really haven't been able to pay much attention because, you know, the focus is really on the Quebec side. But the project does contain 1 million ounces of 5.5 grams in, you know, the really prolific Kirkland Larder district. So on the east side, you've got the old Curradison mine. It produced 11 million ounces until the 1980s. And on the west side, our neighbors are effectively Agnico Eagle. So all good company. And a little bit on the structure of the company, and, you know, effectively cashed up, good share structures, very strong shareholders, some of the best mutual funds including and Eric Sprott himself, Kirkland Lake Gold. So we've got strategics as well. Thanks a lot.